Hi and welcome to The Venture. I'm Suzi Dafnis and I'm here with Robert Gerrish and Phil Dobbie. Today we are talking about getting things done, how to be more productive. Robert, tell me, in your business, your very, very busy business, how do you manage to stay on top of things?
Great question. Well, firstly, let me just say that I'm glad we're talking about this because we do happen to know in our little business that this is a big issue for businesses, and it's we did a survey last year of 2,500 of our audience, and was kind of behind finding clients' productivity or overwhelm was number 2 hot button, the thing that keeps people awake at night. But I mean, with us, we use some delightfully old-fashioned mechanisms to stay productive. We have a small team in our organisation. We have a WIP, a work in progress sheet that we operate from, and we catch up together on Skype every Monday morning first thing. And we go through all the key issues of our business, and we allocate tasks, and we see how we're going. So, you know, we hold each other accountable pretty strongly. And I think when you've got other members in your team, then it's very possible to do that. But I think where it becomes much more of an issue is if you're working by yourself, if you haven't got somebody who's kind of tapping you on the shoulder, you know, a much bigger issue. But I'm sure we'll get there in a second.
So it's interesting you say that WIPs are, those work in progress meetings are important, because I mean, I've been in big business for many years. Work in progress is it's that Monday morning meeting. It goes on till Monday lunchtime. You know,
well, it does it, but that has to be
biggest
efficient as well.
Yeah.
No, but that's the thing, and you're quite right. A lot of businesses
Because your meetings aren't necessarily a way to get things done. Like obviously they work for you, but obviously, like you're saying, they can be a big waste of time.
Well, it becomes a sounding board. I mean, maybe I've just worked for the wrong companies, but I've spoken to lots of people who they're saying the same thing. Everyone grandstands at work in progress meeting. It's look what I've done this week, you know, and then I've invented a few things that I'm going to do.
We need to have a separate session all about how to have an effective work in progress.
I think that's a good point. But I mean, you know, our meetings are the way. But I think the other question as well is it's not just how effectively you're getting through your workload. Are you doing the right thing?
Yeah.
And that's the big element of productivity. I mean, there's lots of things you can do to manage your time more effectively. So you think, well, this is great if you're very task orientated. You know, I've ticked all the boxes, but are they the right things? And I think that's a far bigger question. When it comes to
absolutely, because
what about
you can be busy being busy. Planning for me is a big part of it. If I go into the office on a Monday morning and I haven't spent usually a little bit of time on a Sunday looking at what have I got this week, what are the meetings, and I try and keep those to a minimum. You know, what are the proposals I need to write? Planning not only what I'm doing that week, but you know, I have some standing appointments that are there for the rest of the year. When it comes to our marketing and social media, we use online tools and technology to map out our plan, even if it's broad brush. For a long period of time, and then allocate the required work to the required person, and then check in often enough to know that everything is still running along smoothly.
Yeah, look, and I guess you touched on it as well, Phil. If you don't know where you're going, you're never going to know if you've got there or not. And it's so any efficiency, any way of working effectively, we have to know where's this all headed, what's my vision for this business, and then how am I going to get to that vision? Because I think there's so many things these days, we can busy ourselves. You know, we can get up in the morning and sit down at our desk at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock and stay busy till whenever we want to. Busy, but busy is not productive.
It's because you haven't got the thinking time. What you've got to do, I think, in your week is allow thinking time. So it's interesting you're saying about Sundays, because maybe that's actually thinking time rather than doing time. And I think a lot of businesses, particularly, I think the bigger the business, the bigger this becomes an issue, that people don't have enough time to actually think about why they're doing what they're doing. And tread a more productive path.
There's a lovely line that is credited to His Holiness the Dalai Lama, which is, "I've got so much work to do today, I'm going to have to meditate for twice as long." And I think that's I don't know whether he said it or not.
I think that's great.
It's perfect. And, I've got so much to do today, I'm going to have to meditate for twice as long.
But couldn't he just meditate twice as hard for the same amount of time? You know, I mean,
you're just being flippant.
I think that's very productive to me.
This notion of getting away from your work, I think, is so key. Again, particularly in the small end of town where I come from. To get away from your work can be one of the most effective things you can do to heighten productivity.
But do you know where I think a lot of the ideas come? It's often when you're not thinking about it, isn't it? So I think it's when you actually lock yourself in a room and say, right, I have a problem to solve and I'm going to solve it in the next hour. I think that's exactly the wrong approach. I think what you have to do is say, right, I'm going to lock myself in a room for half an hour and I'm going to get to grips with this issue, and then I'm going to walk away from it. And the answer will come to me in the shower or
For me, it's not about more ideas. I can open up my inbox and that might be the worst thing I can do for my productivity, because then I'm lost in the 1,000 emails that are sitting in my inbox, and do I file them, do I keep them, do I act on them, what do I do? For me, it might be more productive to not open up my email, but to say, what is the most important project on my list right now, and what are the 1 or 2 or 3 things that if I did this week towards that project would have me in a better place in a week from now. And breaking down a complex project that might be more meaningful to my business rather than checking the boxes, just to have checks and boxes.
You were saying earlier about the whole kerfuffle with carbon tax, weren't you, and how it's so complex when it's the challenge is to simplify.
Well, before we started filming, I think complexity is an interesting issue. In that, for a big business, I think it's a significant issue, because a lot of what we like, the products that we really like are the simple products that are being very complicated to arrive at. The things that are difficult to use probably are difficult to use because there's not enough thought gone into it. So that business has tried to simplify the whole process to arrive at that end product. So they're sort of like, to get simplicity.
We know who the masters of that are, don't we?
Well, if we're talking about productivity and making things simple, and which I think is what you're saying, is that businesses don't break complex tasks or projects down into what's manageable, so that they're not very productive towards moving towards them. Is that what you're saying?
I think it gets back to what we were saying before about where's your business heading, or where are you going with a particular product. I think you can go 2 ways with that, and I've seen this in big business where you get 1,000,001 project managers. Now, you've got to be careful of those project managers. They're very important people, but you've also got to be really careful of them, because they'll work out a Gantt chart, and and their worth is based on how long the Gantt chart is. And the more work they put into it, the more complicated the project becomes. And they're trying to get to point A. By the time they've got to point A, which could be 2 years, the world's moved on, and the thing you're building isn't needed anymore. So you've really got to chunk everything down. I think in big business this is particularly important. You've got to have a grand vision about where the business is heading, and it might be a project, a big project, but you've always got to chunk stuff down and get smaller teams. So you get because the real benefit, real productivity gets when you get a small team of people enthused about a particular goal, which is achievable in a short time frame. But the danger is, of course, that they may be doing something that overlaps with something someone else is doing in a business, and you can spend a lot of time trying to avoid that overlap.
Let's talk about systems then, because
it's all to do with systems.
Yeah. So what role can systems play in having us be more productive? Is systems?
Oh, I think they're absolutely vital. I mean, the thing is, again, from the kind of the small end of town, often people shy away from systems, thinking they're not for me, they're for bigger businesses. But in fact, systems are liberating. If there's anything that Michael Gerber's taught us in the E-Myth, it's that systems give you freedom. And they really do, but it's often you look at a blank sheet of paper and you think, I don't need a system for how to answer the phone, I know how to answer the phone. But the point is, the more you actually kind of document your processes and your systems, the more chance there is that you can gradually step away from your business. And if I see one more business owner who says they've never had a holiday, I'm going to thump them, because it's just not right. We can't do this, we mustn't work like this. But systems and processes are the things that give us freedom, and we have to have them.
To a point, though. So again, getting back to big businesses create systems.
I'm not worried
and then
about
they put systems on top of those systems, and they put new systems to fix the problems of that the other systems haven't had. And what I was trying to say was that if you take those big tasks and break them up into smaller tasks, you need less systems, because everyone's just a group of people around a table saying, how are we going to fix this thing, or how are we going to create this thing? And I think that's what business needs to do, and that's when people are most productive. It's when they're forgetting about systems. They're just very task orientated, but they're task orientated with in the back of their mind that grander vision, and they've had time to think about it. So they've put it into context. So we're very effective at what we're doing right now. But at the back of my mind, I know why we're doing it, and I know where we're heading.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point, especially for business leaders, is that the way to have a team be productive is to have them know what the big picture is and what their role is within that big picture. Because otherwise it's a little bit aimless and I don't know where I'm going. So the clearer they can make that vision, the better. One of the other things, just coming back to small business and not having had a holiday, what I find is that some people, they're trying to be as productive as possible, but they're just just one person. And so they don't necessarily even think about, maybe I could be more productive if I focused on building the business and outsourced some of the things that I do. Do you outsource in your business?
No, but not that I wouldn't. It's just that I am really a one-man band these days, so it's difficult to outsource because I interview for a living. So it's difficult to. If I outsource that, I'd be doing nothing. So and then I'd be on holiday all the time. But I don't think I'd be making as much money. So, but I think having spent a lot of time in big business, I think the successful big businesses are the ones that outsource a lot. And I think and we're seeing that now. I mean, there's a real trend towards businesses to. I think. Companies with the global financial crisis downsized a lot and then started outsourcing, and I don't think they're building up again. Not because they don't think the global financial crisis is over, but because I think they realise it's a smart way to work because you only pay based on results. And that's got to be a smart way for a business.
But what about the small business?
Yeah, in terms of small business, there's never been an easier time to outsource. You know, I wouldn't be here now if I didn't outsource. I'd be buried under my desk with all my stuff. But I think outsourcing is
stuff, not his staff.
No, stuff, not staff. No staff.
I was going to say that.
But yeah, I think outsourcing
some legal repercussions.
Must be done. But the important thing is, well, there's a distinction between outsourcing and abrogating responsibility. And unfortunately, what does happen occasionally in small businesses is people think, oh, I don't want to do that anymore, so they give it to somebody else. Bookkeeping being a classic example, and then your bookkeeper runs off with all your money or stuffs up your finances. That's not outsourcing.
No.
That's abrogating responsibility. But certainly, I think I do view this as being quite simple. Is if somebody can do something that you're doing as well as you or efficiently and will cost you less than you can actually earn the business if you were focusing on what needed to be focusing on, then outsource it. You know, and I absolutely think that as individuals, particularly those people working by themselves, should be very clear, what's my skill set? How do I best contribute to this business, and how can I get myself out of the other stuff? And I think having a path to outsourcing and delegation is absolutely essential for a business. You know, if they're sitting there working all day and all night and working all weekend, something is wrong. You know, because we shouldn't need to be working like that. We don't have to work like that.
So it's the same thing, isn't it? How do I chunk it up? How do the whole operation of my business? How do I chunk it up so I know what the end game is? But how do I chunk stuff up to get there? Whether it's big business or outsourcing in a small business, it's the same thing.
But we've taken up a lot of people's time now. They're being unproductive. What should maybe they're not.
No, they now know how to use technology, how to outsource, how to use systems. So we'd love to hear from you. How do you be more productive? What do you do? What tools do you use? Perhaps there's applications on your iPhone or your iPad that help you be more productive. Maybe it's a task management tool. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for joining us. We hope to see you again here on The Venture.
Gotta go.